Hello, I'm Lisa. Welcome and namaskaram. So happy to have you joining me for today's Saturday sit. Today, we're focusing on installing a stillness practice, which is something we've been talking about. And we're going to look at the metaphor of a snow globe in so doing. The entire month of February, and I'm so excited, today's the first day. During this entire month, everything that I do and that we do at Scars to Metals is going to be focused on installing a stillness practice. This is the foundation of a lot of the work that we're doing together. I do feel that we can find healing without a stillness practice, but it's such a huge lever to pull that I'm really just focusing in and trying to invite you to join me in installing your own practice. So, what we're going to be focused on today is the idea of stillness being something that happens as a result of bringing everything to a quiet place. So, when you think of a snow globe and you think about shaking it up, it's hard to see what's there. So, when the snow settles, things become clear and we have a clarity. So, we're going to explore this idea a little bit during our meditation. For those of you who don't know me, I am Lisa. My on ramp to spirituality unfortunately came as a result of the loss of two of my children as very young people. And I've had to navigate living without them for quite some time. And whether your on ramp to spirituality or stillness is loss of a person, maybe loss of a job, a relationship, fire, loss of good health, we're all welcome here. And we're doing something for ourselves that's very meaningful. So, congratulations on getting here. We're going to talk very briefly about the meditation itself, and then we're going to move into the practice after a little bit of instruction. And I always like to lead with why meditate? It's such a great question. And as I've shared in the past, every time I meditate almost, or every so often, I realize that I've uncovered another benefit. So, beyond this focus of installing the practice, the benefit we're going to touch on today is perspective and how sitting for just a couple minutes a day, accessing stillness, can actually help us to gain perspective and, more importantly, keep us from losing it. And I'm going to share just an anecdote of my own to drive this point home, and it's a little embarrassing, but I think it's important as we're talking through some of these principles that you have direct contact with an example. Hopefully, what that will do is activate or trigger your own experience so that we're experientially learning. I'm not a librarian, so I'm not asking you to check these concepts out in sort of a distant way. I want and intend for you to be able to experience them so that you can begin to see some of these changes. So, just a very quick story. Several years ago, when I was deep in my existence of being very compartmentalized and keeping things very separate, I found myself, as many of you may also, just in a very stressful, compartmentalized, what do I want to say, rigid schedule. And because I have a special needs son who I live with and care for, along with his dad, my husband, I've always had to be extremely efficient with my time. So that's not something that I'm trying to, or that I've ever been trying to get better at. I've always been pretty good at it. But the problem arises is when you create time for something and something doesn't go your way, sometimes that can throw us off our game. So, my example is there was a Saturday morning several years ago, and Zach was out as he often is on Saturdays, which is why I scheduled Saturday sits for Saturday because I know for sure that I'll be available. Um, I was working at my finances and saying, okay, today's the day. I've got to do my monthly banking. I've got to go through and make sure that I'm cashing in on this set aside childcare money that I had been kind of using as a savings account, save for a rainy day. Long story short, I got in there, I was ready to go. And when I started attempting to transfer the proceeding or transfer the funds from the set aside, I realized that I'd waited too long. And so, for those of you involved in these set aside programs, generally there's 12 months, from the calendar year, and then they'll throw in another couple of months sometimes. Well, I missed it. And I can joke about it now, but at the time when I felt like my 5 grand was stuck in limbo somewhere and I wasn't going to get it, which is what the computer screen was telling me, I lost it. I was breathing heavily, I was crying, my stomach was doing somersaults, and I felt groundless. I felt I was panicking and I was angry, and I was able to just tap right into, at the time, a very regular narrative for me, which is that this is terrible, things don't go my way. What the hell? I was seething, and I just was like driving this narrative. I had lost my perspective. And fortunately, in that moment, after probably 20 or 30 minutes of letting myself get really worked up, I was able to call someone whom I trust and was able to kind of walk me through, this isn't such a big deal. Here are the things that we can do. And it helped me make that transition. But the truth is, that whole day got kind of sidetracked because I let my whole body experience this trauma from something that wasn't going to impact me immediately, wasn't going to leave me without a roof over my head or an inability to care for my family or anything like that. It was just this conceptual thing that, yeah, it needed attention, but I had lost my perspective. And I don't want to put myself through trauma. I don't need to, because there's a lot of trauma that comes our way that we have no control over. So the benefit of meditation that we're focusing on today is just this perspective. And as we're walking through the practice, hopefully you can access a memory of your own where maybe you wished you hadn't reacted in the way that you did. Perhaps you're seeking to just show up more fully on a regular basis. But either way, this perspective idea, it's very cool benefit of meditation. So let's move into just talking briefly about the breath. This is our life force. As we breathe in, we're receiving life. As we're exhaling, we're letting go of the life that lasted for 1 second. And without our breath, we aren't here. So I like to just bring this concept of paying homage to the breath, being aware of it. And it moves into one of the myths of meditation, which is that we're trying to get somewhere, we're trying to go, we're trying to escape. Um, Actually, quite the opposite. When we're meditating, what we're really saying is, I'm here, I am receiving life, and I honor that because I know that it's fragile and I know that it's transient. So we're not trying to take off. We're actually trying to, actually not trying to, but we're learning to and training to come home to ourselves. So we're just honoring that life force that's coming and going. And at the other end of the just talking about myths for meditation, there's no way to do this wrong. So we don't want to worry too much about what we look like or how we're supposed to feel. The truth is that anytime we're taking a conscious breath or we're aware of our breathing, different way to say it, same idea, we're meditating, we're aware that our life is precious, we're aware that oxygen is moving in and out, and we're aware that without that we aren't here. So there's no wrong way to do this. Just show up, give it your best shot, come along for the ride. That's why I'm guiding us. And what we want to do is establish a very dignified posture. I am very comfortable sitting cross-legged these days. It took me quite a while to get here in my 55-year-old body. Your body, your practice, if you're more comfortable in a chair, just take note and be sure that your hips are setting at the same level as your knees. You're kind of in that L shape. We don't want to pull on the lower back. If you can do the practice without head support, that's ideal. But again, your body, your practice. If you need to lie down, whatever your body needs. I definitely don't lie down during meditation because I would go to sleep, humbly. So I'm going to also just mention personalizing the space. I've mentioned many times that really, when you're creating a space for meditation, should you be inspired to do that, to personalize it and make it welcoming. Whether we're, preparing a meal or a space for someone to visit our home, or perhaps we're onboarding a new employee, any of these things, we take great care in creating a space that's welcoming. In the employee example, maybe we set the laptop out and a planner and some pens, or in our home we do things to make people feel welcome. So this is no different. We want to make our space feel like us. We want to begin to recognize ourselves when we land there, and anything like candles or flowers, particular lighting. I also really enjoy incense. um, Anything that makes it feel more like you. Could even be a particular blanket or a piece of clothing if you're grieving, to help that person feel closer to you. It could be your Bible or another religious text, or other philosophical, anything that makes you feel more like yourself. So, moving now into the meditation itself, I will be guiding us through several cycles of breathing. I count at 4 in and out breaths per minute. So, that's about 15 seconds per breath. In breath is about 6 seconds, out breath is about seven. And then at the end of that seven count for the out breath, we really just sit in what I call rest. There's a little pocket of space that we don't think about when we're not meditating, but it's very powerful to allow ourselves to get to know that little pocket of space at the end of our exhale. It can come in very handy when we're trying to gain perspective and we're not in our meditation position. And finally, I think I failed to mention just wanting to make sure that we keep this nice erect spine. It's our way to just inform our body and also the space in the universe that we're open and that we're here to receive. And I often use the example of, the TV antennas. We used to call them rabbit ears when we only had a couple of channels. And sometimes we couldn't get the signal. So we had to like play around with the antennas. And so that's what we're doing when we're keeping our spine nice and straight. We're lowering our shoulders, keeping that neck nice and long. And so we're going to go ahead and jump into the practice. What you'll notice if you're new to the session is, as we're going through the practice, I'll begin to pull back on some of the support, and then we'll move into this exploration of snow globes as they pertain to meditation. Before I begin any end each session, I do chant a very short Sanskrit invocation. It is something that it's an intention to call forth peace and light and truth and immortality of our spirits, not of our bodies. It's just a way to acknowledge that we're beginning. And also, I will finish the session with that Sanskrit invocation, and then that'll be your cue that we're done with our meditation. So, without further delay, I'm going to take a breath or two and we may begin. Asato ma sagamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, surmaritangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Beginning with our first breath, breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. And we want to fully exhale at that rest. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and rest. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Continue breathing at your own comfortable pace. Your mind is wandering. Great. Quiet it down. Just come on back to your breathing. Let that brain chatter fall away as you breathe in, out. As we're breathing, and we're not judging ourselves, we're open to bringing to mind a snow globe. There's a scene in that snow globe, maybe some people, maybe some places, maybe some things. Crystal clear when it's at rest. As we see that snow globe shaken up, becomes a whiteout. We know that scene is still there, but we can't see it. The more we shake it, the less visibility we have to what's there. If we really let it settle, it becomes crystal clear. Our invitation today is to open our minds to the possibility that learning to be still on a regular basis for short intervals of time and clear up our own scenarios the same way that letting the snowflakes settle in the globe clarifies what's there. Clarity brings us perspective. We learn to see things as they are. We become better equipped to make decisions about what happens next. Perhaps we can call to mind a memory of an insight we had, a moment of clarity, and how easy it was once we had that clarity to act or not to act. By creating a stillness practice, we're learning to cultivate that clarity for ourselves. We're learning to turn up the volume on our still quiet voice that always knows what the next best thing is to do, even if that doing means not acting. We make choices from a cloudy scene or gambling. We're gambling with the outcome. As we continue our breathing, we're inviting this feeling of clarity to be all pervasive. Cells of our body, the breath moving in and out of the lungs. We're experiencing this clarity so we can recognize it. Recognizing it is the first step to cultivating more of it. As we're taking these last few breaths together, we're resting in this clarity. We're resting in a way that we might carry it forward into our day and into the rest of our lives. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasuma Jyotirgamaya Surmaitangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskaram. I'm feeling some clarity. I hope you are too. Thinking of this snow globe as a metaphor for how we get clear on things and remind ourselves of just how easy our decision making process can become. And with all the data and the stimulation and the decision trees, the millions of decisions that we make that we're not even aware of, they become clear with a regular meditation practice. So, where do we go from here? First, Saturday sits. We'll be right back here again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Of course, these videos always load and save, so you can always go back on your own schedule to check them out. Next Saturday, we're going to be looking a little bit at what meditation is not. We talked a lot today about what meditation is, so we're going to look at it more closely, and just it'll be fun to decide and chat about what meditation is not. So that's next Saturday on the 8th of February. Another way to get engaged with this work is to join our virtual healing community, which is scarstomedals.com. That's the word scars, SCARS, the number 2, and the word medals, MEDALS.com. This is a virtual space where together as a community, we're transforming our deepest pain into our most proud medals of love. We do that through live events, posting, sharing, and mostly just connection. You don't have to have lost a person that you love. Again, anything that's bringing you onto this sort of seeking path, on the spirituality um, plane, it's all welcome. Additionally, we have created a PDF to help you install your own meditation practice that's being shared in the chat at the end of our session together. So please access that. Of course, if you have any questions, you can DM me on LinkedIn or reach out to me directly. info@lisamcfarland.com is an easy way to do that. And lastly, if you're so inspired or curious about my own journey and how I've come to be showing up on LinkedIn on Saturday all by myself, inviting you to meditate, check out my book called The Healing Path, Part One, Stay Present. This is the first of a 3-book series published on Amazon. And again, there will be a link to that in the chat if you're so inspired. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're able or if you're inspired, carry this metaphor of the snow globe effect into the rest of your day. And particularly when you find yourself having difficulty with a decision, this is so powerful. Try it, play around with like a little decision. Do I go to this grocery store or that grocery store? Or do I want to have this for lunch or that for lunch? If you're um, comfortable trying this out with small decisions, you can then expand it. But I would love to hear how this is going when you're struggling with a decision or some kind of a dilemma. Sit still. Set your timer for a couple of minutes so that you're not having to worry about the time. Or if you don't want to formally meditate, sit on a park bench. Um, Anywhere that you can sort of let things settle, definitely get away from your devices and see how doing this can help you have the clarity you need to make the best decision for you at the time. So until next time, namaskaram, peace, and we'll see you here next week at 11 a.m.